I'm Perry Red. This is Socially Speaking. I had the opportunity to travel down to the Washington Monument on the National Mall to witness dozens of Second Amendment rights activists supporting their gun rights on April 19th. All over the country, these gun enthusiasts and supporters gathered and shared their heartfelt feelings about this country and about their rights to bear arms. There were gun-toting protesters in Virginia. They were within the bounds of the law there, but they promised to keep their weapons unloaded. Those in Washington, D.C. chose not to carry any firearms in compliance with the District of Columbia's strict gun laws, even though many believe the rules are unconstitutional.
There are too many laws on the books today at all levels of government that are unconstitutional, and particularly Second Amendment rights. But how can we regain those rights? Folks, we have to have a revolution at the ballot box this November. If somebody doesn't believe in the Constitution as originally intended, they need to go home and get a real job and not be in the Congress. We represent freedom and liberty, and we must declare war against oppression and against socialism, and you are the people to do that. A small representative of what I see as a sleeping giant all across this nation, that's beginning to stretch, beginning to get up out of bed, beginning to start to speak. And folks, we've got to speak loudly. We can't be a sleeping giant any longer. We've got to be a running giant that is going to reclaim this country from the socialists that have been taking away our freedom and liberty. And we can do that. But every one of you needs to look in your
We have something that we've been collecting and saving. We wanted to give it to a member of Congress, but we didn't want to lose America. He says, you know, you gotta have this Representative Paul Brown fella here, because he's like a Second Amendment icon. And he's not a politician, he's a leader. You notice, we don't have a lot of politicians here today. That's by design, okay? People aren't real fond of politicians right now. Have you noticed that? Dr. Brown, okay. Dr. Brown, I would like to give you this folder. It has several thousand petitions, signatures to the United States Congress. Will you please try and find some like-minded individuals there where you can present this to the U.S. Congress, sir?
Very good friend and my hero, Susanna Gracia Hupp. We had no conceal and carry rights in the state of Texas, if you can imagine. She went on to run for and get elected to our Texas House of Representatives. She started the bill to get us conceal and carry in Texas, and she was successful doing that.
What an awesome group, man! Right here in the shadow of the monument. God, I love this country. For those of you that don't know me, I am going to kind of tell my story here a little bit. I wasn't born in a house with guns. I'm not a hunter. I support your right to hunt, by God, but I'm not personally into blasting Bambi. Sorry. But when I was 21 and moved out on my own, a friend of mine gave me a gun, taught me how to use it, and don't misunderstand, as I was being raised, my father was an expert on the founding of the country. So I was steeped in the Second Amendment. even though we didn't really have guns in the house. I knew what the Second Amendment was about. Back in 1991, my parents and I went into a restaurant in October, a little local restaurant. It was packed, man. It was Boss's Day. It was the day after payday. The place was packed. We had just finished eating when all of a sudden this guy comes crashing his truck through the front floor-to-ceiling window. I mean, tables were scattered, people were scattered. All right, he's going to say, all right, everybody put your wallets up on the table, or something like that. But the shooting just continued. I'm going to tell you that it took a full 45 seconds, which is an eternity, to figure out that this guy was simply going to walk from one person to the next, take aim, and pull the trigger. Take a step to his right, take aim, and pull the trigger. And I had made the incredibly stupid decision to obey the law. I did what you people would do. I thought, you know, what are the odds? If I need a gun, it's going to be if I'm out on some back Texas road somewhere and my car breaks down. It's not going to be on a bright sunny day in a crowded place, right? So my gun was completely useless to me, and mine wasn't the only one. There were a number of other people there that day who had their guns out in their car. To make a long story short, a number of the police officers that arrived were actually patients of mine, and they took us to lunch sometime later and told us what happened. Once the cops got over to the Luby's cafeteria, they managed to make it into the cafeteria, and they realized, or they didn't realize exactly who the shooter was, but they did see a woman out in the aisle cradling a man who had obviously been mortally wounded. They said at that point they saw a man walk over to her, put a gun to her head. She looked up at him, put her head down, and the gunman pulled the trigger. My parents had just had their 47th wedding anniversary, and Mom wasn't going anywhere without Dad. 23 people were killed that day. All it took was for the cops to fire a shot into the ceiling, and this guy rabbited to a back bathroom alcove area. He exchanged a few gunshots with them and then put a bullet in his own brain. These people are cowards. The people that do that sort of thing, they go to places where people are easy
There were
targets.
signs reading, which part of shall not be infringed confuses you? And bright orange stickers saying guns save lives. They dotted the crowd at the Washington Monument. One thing I know is that the movement that is underway is not a national movement. It is a movement of fringe proportions. It appears that they are loud. They believe they are privileged. They don't believe in equality, obviously, because they continue to speak the language that says, take our country back. And it's problematic to believe that this is the way all Americans feel, although we hear that often on Fox News or when they're invited on to CNN and MSNBC. It is clear from what I witnessed and what you see in the video that these people are majority white citizens with European backgrounds. We are under no pretense that race is underlying, although the language is veiled enough to delude us into thinking that it is not about race. Besides myself, there were probably 2 other black people there. So it is extremely difficult for me to believe that this is a populist movement. Again, I'm Perry Red. This is Socially Speaking.